Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Erin Clymer on the podcast, coming to us all the way from Texas, where prayers to them because they finally got to experience what an actual winter is like, even though they only experienced it for a couple of days. Where up here, it's 4 straight months of it, never ending, and it's just depression that you'll never escape from. I mean, it's snowing outside as I'm looking at it right now, but before we get into all that, because I don't want to lose half of our viewers just depressing them, she is our current guest, and she's on here to talk about bodybuilding. Also, being that she's a 6-footer like myself, we can talk about some of the tall people problems that occur in the gym because I love discussing that. But most importantly, Erin, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I got to ask first of all because I love to torture myself. What is the weather like in Texas today? We're in your neck of the woods.
Today was beautiful. I think it's like in the high 60s, possibly. Didn't need a jacket. Yeah, it's amazing. Just a couple of days ago, Texas was trying to kill us. And today I was out throwing the frisbee for my dog in a tank top, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah, it's 10 degrees here, so it warmed up a little bit. The coldest it got here was negative 32. So, it's yeah, so that's not a fun time. I mean, literally twice 2 weeks ago, my car wouldn't start, so I couldn't go anywhere because the gas froze. So, you can't do that. So yeah, that's a little thing we have up here. But yeah, but again, before we get into that, because I don't want to depress everyone, Erin, why don't you first give us your backstory on what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to where you're currently at right now, bodybuilding.
um, well, I've been an athlete my entire life, growing up doing sports as a kid, all through high school, had a full scholarship in track and field in college. And when I graduated college, wanted to stay in shape. I got into 5Ks and 10Ks just running, and eventually got into CrossFit. I was in CrossFit for about 4 years. And then I got into bodybuilding. I decided to leave CrossFit for various reasons. A friend of mine that I met up in Cleveland, Ohio, when I was on a project there. She introduced me to bodybuilding style training, and I really fell in love with it. And when I moved back to Houston, I met my coach, and it just went from there.
Yeah, I was like I've told you before. I mean, you're too tall for CrossFit. I tried it too, where it's like we're too tall. I mean, once you're
Yeah.
even close to 6 feet, I mean, that's not the sport for you. You're gonna get busted up a lot, and that's one thing. Unfortunately, that I had to find myself. I went there for about a couple of weeks just to see what it was all about, and yeah, I left there thinking, yeah, that is definitely not my taste. But when it comes to the bodybuilding lifestyle, I mean, so many people have so many misconceptions about it, or they're curious about it. Was there anything that you were concerned about in this lifestyle ahead of time, or was it one thing where you just want to just jump into it and just get started?
Well, I actually started bodybuilding with my coach like twice a week, training while I was still in CrossFit because I started training with him, training legs, and I was like, I wanted to train chest because I thought it would help me in CrossFit. And of course, he's just kind of like, this is weird. And the more I trained with him, the more I wanted to hit other body parts because I was like, wow, I can actually get a really great physique, which was always my end goal. And CrossFit never provided a really good physique for me. Being tall, it just wouldn't do it for me. And bodybuilding, I could see that it was helping me achieve what I actually wanted. And I eventually just left CrossFit, and it was easy to do the switch because I saw bodybuilding giving me the end goal of what I wanted.
And when you were getting started, I mean, so many people struggle with finding out what works best for them, and it's always a never ending cycle of trial and error. And what was that like for you getting started and sort of realizing that like, hey, just if I were to walk up to someone and say, hey, like, what'd you train for that body part, it's not going to work as good for you. What was that like, sort of getting used to the fact that, I mean, it's going to be a lot of experimentation, sort of figuring out what works best for your body specifically.
Well, to be honest, I since starting bodybuilding, I've pretty much been with my coach from day one. I train with him like almost 5 days a week, and from the first day of training with him, once I left CrossFit, I relied on his knowledge of how to train because I really didn't know what I was doing. And his not I have been training with him for about almost 5 years now, and now I have a lot of his knowledge, and, he can tell me, "Hey, I can't train you today. You can train on your own this body part." I know what to do. So I've gained a lot of knowledge from him on how to train properly, and I'm blessed that he's a coach who trained with some of the best bodybuilders in the world back when he was bodybuilding. So his knowledge comes from a lot of the best. So I feel very blessed that all of my bodybuilding career has been with a coach, because I know some competitors out there don't necessarily have access to a coach to train them day in and day out. They really have to experiment, watch YouTube videos, and figure out how to train on their own. So I've been a little bit spoiled in having my coach by my side through this journey.
And what was your friends and family's reaction like when you told them that you want to be a bodybuilder? What was their opinion on it all?
Um, Probably, I think, definitely concern. Uh, my family, just like a lot of people out there, they see what's in the media, the bad scenarios from bodybuilding, and they had a lot of concern for sure. I think they expected me to just turn into a man. And you know, after a couple of years of doing the sport, and they saw how much I love it, and that I was doing everything in a very healthy manner, and I still look the same. They're very supportive at this point. And I think my parents are excited to attend my pro debut.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I mean, yeah, just to have that support really does make the difference. But when you were getting started, I mean, a myth that we hear of all the time is that, women still sometimes have that fear where if they walk into the gym, they're going to put on 50 pounds of muscle if they even touch a dumbbell. But how do you like to respond to that? Because I bet you still hear that all the time, because unfortunately it still does exist in a lot of people's minds.
To those girls, I would say, what's wrong with putting on the muscle? The muscle looks amazing. I think if those girls got into it and saw how it changes their bodies and makes them look firmer and gives them shape, I think they would have a complete different mindset about it. Um, it takes years and hard work to get to where some bodybuilding women are. And you're not just going to walk into a gym and lift some heavy weights and the next night you look completely different. It's a lot of work and commitment. And but to those girls, I would say, just I would encourage all women to try it, because it becomes addictive in a good way. You love how your body transforms with muscle.
Well, and even if you don't like the muscle that you put on, you can always just stop working out then and let it go and let it,
This
it's
is true.
it's not like it's an end all where it's like you're going to end up looking like this forever. So that's another thing that I like to talk about. But I love talking genetics on this podcast because everyone, oh my God, I want her arms, I want his abs, I want their back. They just don't understand that you can only be the best version of yourself. What was that like for you, sort of figuring out, your journey? Because I mean, you're always gonna have that one body part that really, really takes off that you don't have to train as much, and then you're gonna have that one body part that just doesn't respond at all, that you're gonna have to train to oblivion to get it to catch up. What were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
Getting started, my early years of training, my shoulders were pretty slow growers. Um, and then they exploded. I don't really have a problem with my shoulders anymore. The body parts that I still have a problem to this day, and they are a focus this off season, is my arms and my hamstrings. I think just being 6'2" and having very elongated muscle heads, it's very difficult for me to get a bicep peak and any type of roundness or and thickness to my hamstrings. I would say the last 3 judges' feedbacks from my shows have I've been told my glutes are too large and I don't have the hamstrings to match. I have a massive butt, and it's bizarre, and it's not like it's fat. I've striated glutes right now, and it's just huge. All the judges tell me you have to have the hamstrings to match your butt. So I am training hamstrings like crazy.
Oh yeah, and that's and especially with the long arms too. I get that entirely where you're developing, longer. You got to just have a little bit more muscle. Where I have some people like I just had a guest on who was 5 feet tall and is like, screw you because like they barely have to do that work when it comes to putting on that size. But as a guy, arms are the be all end all. So what does an arm day look like for you? Because I'm taking anyone's advice. But I mean, my arms are all right, but you can always, if you're a guy, you can always improve on your arms. I don't care what anyone says.
I train arms twice a week to help them grow. One arm day is very, very heavy. I either try to train arms on the heavy day with my coach or have somebody training with me to help spot me so I can really, really go heavy on them. And then on the second day, I tend to do moderate weight, more contraction movements to um, to help with the detail. Training twice a week on arms has helped them greatly. So
I mean, at my peak, I was training like 3 times a week arms just because I was your gym bro and everything like that. Where then you did your legs and your back on other days and stuff. But yeah, it's what you do. But also in this journey, I mean, the nutrition aspect is one thing that's rarely talked about, and that's 80 to 90% of the transformation that you're going to see. And what were some of the bigger nutritional changes that you made when you first got started in this lifestyle?
I think just being on a regiment of timed meals. Before bodybuilding, I still ate fairly healthy. I did paleo for a while because that was really popular in CrossFit. Um, I was never like a crazy junk food eater. I always tried to eat healthy and try to benefit my muscles. I didn't really have the knowledge of how to eat to benefit my muscles until I got into bodybuilding. I absolutely love the structured side of bodybuilding and the diet, because I function off of a structured day. So having my meals planned out and eat every 3 hours, it works very well for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you are a bodybuilder, you have to have a structured life. If you're one of those people like me who lives in the chaos, bodybuilding is not going to be that great for you. But how do you deal with those days when everything isn't all structured? Because you're going to have those days that are hectic, and you're even if you don't want to work out, you're going to have down days. And one thing that I love about a lot of people on social media is that they're able to post about that because so many people think that bodybuilders, oh, they just must have that mindset where everything's perfect all the time and they must not suffer from that. But how do you deal with those days when your body's either telling you like, oh, I don't want to work out, or you're just like, I don't want to eat that chicken breast again, or you just go through all that mental, that cluster that develops. How do you personally deal with that?
I think just in the back of my head, I remind myself of my competitors that they're probably doing what they need to be doing. And I was having this discussion the other day with somebody as I was force feeding myself to eat chicken and rice. I really didn't want to eat it. I wasn't really hungry at the time. And it was just absolute torture to get these bites down. It was awful. And it's kind of a mind where I started thinking, oh my gosh, I really torture myself to do this, and am I ever going to be successful? And you're like, am I torturing myself to never be successful? And start getting into your head, should I quit? And but those thoughts usually only last a few moments with me, because I do enjoy what I do, and I try to remind myself of my competitors who are force feeding themselves when they don't want to eat that chicken or go to the gym. So,
I mean, pre-social media, I think I would have done so much better working out because then you see like your friends going out and stuff like that, and you just get that FOMO. So yeah, pre-social media, I would have been probably just all the time doing that because you don't know what everyone's doing. But yeah, that's really hurt for me too, with all this lifestyle changes that occur for this because I mean, yeah, you're this becomes your life. It's not one of those things where you can just be like, oh, I just do it on the off season, or I just do it like just whenever I have free time and stuff like that. It's like no, it takes over your life. But how do you deal with the social side of it too? Because like you're not going to be able to spend as much time with your friends normally as you'd like to, especially during prep. How have you dealt with that? Has it been easy for you to adjust to that, or has it been one thing where you sometimes struggle and you're just like, hey, I want to go out and just have fun, but I can't because I'm doing this?
um, I mean, there's been a few times where maybe I was bummed that I couldn't go do something, but they're few and far between. Um, you know, I'm I wouldn't call myself a loner, but I do well alone, in my own time. So it's not a huge problem for me. Um, I guess that's a difficult question to answer for me right now because I guess I don't really struggle with it too much. I'm not a big partier. I
Oh, well,
don't I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
go to
Well,
the
especially
club.
now during COVID. I mean, yeah, if you wouldn't really
Yeah,
be doing that
yeah,
anyway. So yeah.
yeah, especially through COVID, we've all had to learn to entertain ourselves at home a bit. I try to schedule my visits with friends around like my cheat meal, and they're all really understanding of that. They they will adjust their schedules to see me around my cheat meal. So they're real great about that. I don't feel like I've missed out on too much.
Well, and that's definitely important because that's one of the things where we've had people that have, become ex bodybuilders. They feel that way too much, and then it sort of leads them to be like, is this really worth it? So I'm glad that you don't suffer from that as much as a lot of other guests do. But I mean, just even on the mental side of things, I mean, it's just again just so fascinating what happens here. But I mean, on top of everything, I mean, let's be honest. For so many of these competitors, posing is the hardest thing for them. I mean, it's harder than your nutrition, it's harder than your working out. It's one thing I never would have really guessed. But what has your overall experience with posing been like?
Um, it's funny when I was a figure competitor. Figure it's just quarter turns. So it's not as much posing. I struggled with figure posing for some reason. I don't it struggle to get my lats out when I was a figure competitor, and I really struggled to pose in heels because I don't wear heels too often. Flexing my legs in heels is very difficult. Um, when my coach and I started discussing me changing divisions, so we would hit a couple of shots in women's physique during training. I took to the posing very easily because I know form and training very well through training with my coach for 5 years. And I look at the posing in women's physique as very similar to how we train, how to contract the muscles, how to squeeze the muscles. So my coach was very excited when he saw me hit physique poses. He's like, "This is you. This is all you. You need to do women's physique," because I could just hit them very well. Now, once I transitioned into physique, learning the poses properly, we had to tweak a lot of things, and I did some posing with Kenny Wallach, top posing coach, and he really changed things up for me and made me look much better before my last show, which was very very exciting. But I love the posing. It's very fun in women's physique. You get to show your strengths and try to hide your flaws a little bit. But I think I took to the posing really well. I enjoy it. Holding the poses for long portions of time, you definitely you break a sweat, and you got to learn to hold those poses for a long time so it comes easy on the stage.
Oh, it's all about creating that illusion too, like you said, covering your bad parts and trying to really accentuate the good parts. But out of your physique poses that you do, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
My favorite pose is side tricep, and my least favorite pose, um, I would I would say my back pose. I like my back, but like we discussed, I still struggle with my hamstrings. My body hasn't quite, it doesn't quite flow yet from the hamstrings up to the back. I need a little bit more flow for the eye. So I'm hoping that pose will improve.
Well, at least with your back pose, you can let your smile down because you're not facing the judges. Because sometimes we've heard,
Yeah.
some of these competitors, their jaw muscles are the most sore thing after these shows because, the human body is just not meant to be in that flexive a state. That's one thing that people just do not understand. And one thing that I need to really preach to everyone is just like, oh my God, you really need to get your posing down because so many times I've heard these stories where people, oh my God, I was like, 2 weeks out from a show and I decided to start posing. And it's like, oh, you poor thing. Like, why would a lot of people just wait until the very end so they don't understand, how important it is to this lifestyle. But even on top of that, I mean, I love to talk about pro cards because so many people don't understand for a lot of these competitors, winning your pro card, that is the highlight of your career, just because that is the affirmation of all that hard work and all that training that you've done. I mean, you can finally compete in the pro shows now, and so many people just talk about how great it was for them in that moment. And what was that like for you when they announced your name and you realized, oh my God, I'm a pro now?
Oh my gosh, I think the number one feeling I had was relief over happiness and everything. It was relief. Um, because after the last all the previous national shows I did, when you don't win or you get second call outs and all your hard work just seems to go out the window. It is rough going back to your hotel room and crying and just feeling really down about yourself. But I mean, I always managed to pick myself up, hit the gym the next day, and keep working towards my goal. But when they announced my name, it was definitely a feeling of relief that I did not have to go back to my room and cry and feel
Well, you could
sad
cry, you
about
could cry, you
myself.
could cry tears of joy. There's a difference there.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
there were tears of
Yeah.
joy for sure.
No, that is just so great. And I cannot even imagine what that feeling must be like myself because I've never really put that much into this lifestyle because yeah, like you said, to be called in second call to knowing all of that hard work that you've put into it, I mean, that must just be a hard feeling because I mean, again, you work probably 10 times as hard as I've ever worked for baseball and I got emotional enough during baseball, so that just goes to show what that's all about. But I mean, post show, another myth that so many people do not understand is that you're not going to be able to keep that shape that you have on that stage. I mean, so many people just don't get that, hey, there's going to be the difference between the off season and, the when you're on that stage because a lot of people just assume that, oh, they work just as hard as anyone, so they must be able to keep that shape because they watch like weight loss shows and they see people lose the weight and then keep the weight off and then they're like, oh, it must just be like that for bodybuilding, but it is definitely not. Now, unless you're blessed like you said, where you still have that nice button, those, you still have those striations, which first of all, screw you for that because, I would just to be able to like go to a pool. Well, first of all, I wouldn't be able to wear anything that would reveal my butt, but just to be able to like do that thing in front of the ladies, that would be a killer thing at a bar or anything like that. But off topic, but I just want to mention that. But when especially when it comes to that, how have you dealt with that? Just sort of realizing that, like, hey, this look that I presented on stage, it's the best that I've looked for a long time, and it's going to be the best I'm going to look for a while. Unfortunately, I am going to have to put on weight. What has that been like for you? And has it gotten easier for you to accept that as your career has gone on?
It's gotten way easier to accept. I'd say my first couple of shows going back into my off season was more of a shocker because my muscle wasn't quite mature yet. So when I would put on that extra weight, I just looked really fluffy and you couldn't really see a lot of muscle in my off season. But now my body has matured greatly. So in my off season, even though I'm putting on a lot of weight, I'm trying to get up to 220 pounds. I'm about around 210 right now, and I still look very muscular. You can see my muscle still very defined. And when I train, I actually still have striations in my shoulders. I do have some striations in my glutes right now. I'm trying to stay lean while putting the weight on, and my coach and I both like to keep me lean during the off season because that way when we go into prep there's not a lot of fat to lose and he doesn't have to push me real hard in dieting and cardio because the harder you push the more you're at risk with losing muscle during that process. So we try to keep me fairly lean while we're putting size on at the same time.
Well, and that's great too. And again, you got to spend money to make money. You got to put on weight if you want to put on muscle. And I'm 217 myself, so and I'm only an inch taller than her. So she's we're almost the same right now. But I put on a little bit. It's not as much muscle as her. It's because it's been COVID, and that's a whole different topic. But getting into COVID, because I mean that's one thing that's changed our lives in more ways than we could have ever imagined. I mean, just everything that's the shutdowns, the new measures, and it's just been just a crazy time to be alive. But how did you deal with COVID, especially at first when the gyms were shut down? Because I know in Texas and Florida right now are basically the two places where I don't even know if they think that there's a pandemic still going on right now. Because I've had people, like literally message me while they're at parties at bars, and I'm just like, oh, that's must be nice. But how did you deal with this whole pandemic, especially being a bodybuilder? Where I mean, shutting down the gyms, that's your guys' drugs, basically. I mean, that's what keeps you guys sane. So when you shut the gyms down, I mean, it's like good luck dealing with these people then, because who knows what they're gonna do then.
Yeah, it was definitely a shocker when it all happened. COVID, the pandemic was a very awful situation, and it still is for a lot of people. The gyms shutting down. I certainly went into panic mode the first couple of days, but I was very fortunate that I had some connections that allowed me to continue my training. So I decided to take advantage of that because I did know that some of my competitors out there did not have access to be able to train properly. But I had some connections that allowed me to continue training. And on top of all that, I had lost my job last year, so that was an added stress, financial stress. I did not expect to go through a financial debacle while still bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is a very expensive sport. So that was an added stress, but I got through it all just fine, and fortunately, I am employed again, so that stress is gone. But no, I came through the pandemic, um, I think stronger, definitely, physically and mentally.
Oh, well, absolutely. Yeah. I just love how bars became, I mean, gyms became basically like speakeasies where, I mean, you had to like have a password and stuff to get in and stuff, and, or you had to know someone. So I really did enjoy that. But yeah, it was just so interesting seeing how some bodybuilders, yeah, they just had to go completely, at home workouts, body weight exercises. And then, I mean, like, I had a friend he'd do like the 500 push ups, 500 sit ups, 500 whatever workout, and then he tore one of his pecs because he worked out too hard. So that literally it's like, yeah, well, I told him, I was like, yeah, dummy, doing like 1,000 push-ups a day, eventually it's not gonna, I mean, that's not designed to be an exercise that you do all day, every day for like, he would just randomly during the day, just like drop down and do like 20, and then he'd wait like another couple minutes and just do it all throughout the day. And I'm like, dude, what is like, obviously that's not gonna, but that's a whole different podcast. I'm gonna have him on and explain himself because that was just an interesting story in that. But on top of it, I mean, like you said, you were just in the supermarket before I called you, and it's been getting really hectic there. What has the food crisis been like during this pandemic? Because I mean, and on top of that, during the snowstorm that you guys had, so what has it been like? Just trying to get your food.
It was a lot of getting up at 5, 6 in the morning to get to the grocery store right when they opened, get in line, and yeah, that's pretty much how we had to get our food. And they rationed. You could only get one carton of eggs, or however many packs of meat. I pretty much went to my local grocery store every morning and get my one or two items, a piece, and started stocking up. You just had to make do. I probably at the beginning of all the frantic grocery buying, I probably went a few days with maybe missing a few things, and I had to adjust my diet. But I know how to adjust the diet properly. But once the grocery stores started, controlling how many people went in and how much they could buy, you just had to go to the grocery store every day. You had to go through some inconveniences. Not a big deal, but got through it.
Oh yeah, it's one of the easier-ish adjustments, and I mean, at least it wasn't like toilet paper, which I mean, everyone, let's be honest, just use a leaf if you don't have that. But one of the questions that I also love to ask too, because let's be honest, you're not the average-looking woman. I mean, especially dressed the way that you are right now. If you were to walk out in public, like you said, well, at least you can do that now in Texas. Don't rub it in too much right now, because if I did that, I'd last probably a good 10 minutes before I'd get frostbite all over. But I mean, like, let's be honest, people aren't used to that look generally. So when they see someone like you walking down the street, they might, like turn their heads. They might just give you a little bit more attention. I compare it to being like a mini celebrity just because it's fascinating for people when they see something that they don't think is, of the norm. And what has that been like throughout your journey, sort of getting used to the fact that, if you walk out in public, sometimes even, like all covered up, people still can notice something, and, you just become a lot more um on people's minds, and you sort of draw a lot more people's attentions than if you were just someone who was just, not competing and just, going throughout their daily lives.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with my height. I mean, I kind of grew
I
up
was
with
gonna say I was
people
gonna
seeing.
say
Yeah,
being over when you're a girl and you're over 6 feet, I mean, that's a given anyway, really. So
yeah,
you must have had a
exactly.
little bit of practice in that department.
Yeah. So typically, people will turn to look at me just by my height, and then I do have a lot of muscle, so that kind of adds to the interest. I do love the attention. It makes me feel good. I work hard. I love it when men check me out and look at my butt, and I don't even mind
You
a
do
little
you do a little
catcalling.
striation flex. You do a little striation flex for him on the side. And just be like, yeah, you know you want this.
Exactly. No, yeah, I love it. I love the attention. I don't mind it at all. So
No, yeah, and that's a great attitude to have because we've had a wide variety of answers in that. Just realizing that like, hey, yeah, you are gonna, and plus, I would appreciate that attention too, just because with the amount of work that you put into this sport. I mean, for people to just completely ignore you and be like, oh yeah, they just don't even notice anything. It would be like, do you know how hard I work in the gym and how much I go through just to be able to look like this? So yeah, I really
I
think it
have a
does.
I have a funny story. I don't mean to
Oh,
interrupt
okay, yeah,
you.
no problem.
Uh, Girl who lives in my apartment building, I ran into her a couple months ago. It was like during my prep for my last show. So I was really jacked at the time, really big and swole. And she came up to me. She's like, "Hey, do you have Snapchat?" And I said, "No, I've never had it." And she's like, "Well, do you know how it works?" And I was like, "I really know nothing about Snapchat." And so she explained to me that Snapchat has this feature where you can kind of put a circle in an area and look at the local Snapchats within that vicinity of the circle. She said she did our apartment complex, and she's scrolling through the different Snapchats, and
Oh
I
my god.
appeared. I was walking my dog in a tank top, like gym clothes, and somebody literally videotaped me and put me on their Snapchat, and they wrote like that girl's jacked or something like that. And she thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. It's people just just randomly like filming me from afar.
Hey, it's like seeing an albino deer or something like that. You just have to document it and just be like, "I was there, I saw this." But no, yeah, that is great. And I mean, yeah, just yeah, and people don't realize, especially when you are in shape, you don't recognize it as much as a lot of other people do. But then to finally have one person come up to you and be like, "Do you know how much people are staring at you, or how much attention you get just by walking in the room?" And then you finally realize it, and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's right." So yeah, that is definitely amazing. And
I really wish, especially with the masks thing,
yeah,
I've been meaning to do this, but I don't have the guts to do it. When people stare at me in public or whatnot, I want so badly to get some of those like hillbilly fake teeth, because I just want to like turn have them on with my mask and just turn to people and be like,
how you doing
just like
today?
just make a face
Yeah.
and big smile at those teeth.
Or just get like a werewolf thing and have like a little blood dripping from your teeth or whatever like that, and just look
Yes,
at him like a
something.
vampire or something like that, and just that would be hilarious. Or like I had one guy who he did it just for laughs, where he acted like there was no protein in the store, so he made like a hissy fit and he filmed it just for fun, just be like, "Where's all the damn chicken?" and stuff like he's running down the aisle and stuff like it. So yeah, I would love to do that as well. Yeah, just to mess with, because yeah, with the amount of attention that, yeah, you got to definitely have fun with it. Or the one that I love to have whenever someone would come up to me when I was in a lot better shape than I'm in right now and just be like, "Hey, do you lift?" And I just tell them, "No, this is all just genetic. I've never touched a weight a day in my life." You're just born with it. And then they just get like really angry and they just be like, "Yeah, that's ridiculous." And I'd be like, "Wait, hey, what are you gonna do?" It's like, I just eat my fruity pebbles and I pray, and hey, it just magically happened that way. But yeah, that's incredible. But two of the questions that I also love to ask. I mean, let's be honest, I hate cardio more than life itself. And you said that you used to do 5Ks and stuff like that. And I think that's a mental disorder, because how anyone would want to do that for fun. That's a whole different podcast where I'm gonna have to go like a full Freud on you and just be like, what happened in your childhood that made you want to run that much? But a cardio, and I'm talking about running. Like I could walk on a treadmill for God knows how long, and I'd be completely fine. But what is your current relationship with cardio like now? Especially, you're in off season now, so you don't have to really do it as much. But especially when you get into prep, I mean, what is that like for you?
Well, the nice thing about bodybuilding cardio is we don't want our heart rate to get anywhere above like 140. If you're having to do like, from what my coach tells me, if you're having to do like hit workouts and really high heart rate cardio, you probably just usually just have a lot of excess fat that you got to get rid of really quickly. But for me, staying lean, in my off season, when I go into prep and I got to do a lot of cardio, just I keep it at a simple walk on a full incline treadmill. and I'm able to watch movies. So there, it's usually pretty chill for me. Probably the last like 2 weeks, I just started doing the stationary bike, and I'm addicted. I am totally addicted. It is a little bit of a higher heart rate. My coach has approved it right now. And we're kind of keeping an eye on my legs because he has a little bit of fear that maybe my legs might shrink from it. So far, so good. My legs look good, but I love the stationary bike. I love it.
Well, yeah. Then for me too, watching the movies, that's the game changer for me. Because like if I run out of movies, then I usually take a couple of weeks off of cardio because I'm like, there's no way. And then I usually wait until HBO or Netflix releases more stuff, and I'm like, okay, I can do cardio now for a couple of weeks just because. Yeah, if I were to, I've done it only a couple times. If I get like really angry, then I can go and do cardio for an extended period of time and not have anything on because I'll just use that as a thing. And if you ever want to do like your best personal lifts, wait until you get very very angry and then go and do it. That's all I'm gonna say. But don't overdo it too much. But yeah, cardio. I mean, that's just oh god. But also, I mean, let's be honest, the most important thing in this lifestyle, and it's never talked about, is sleep. Don't care what anyone says. It's the most important thing. What does your sleep schedule look like? Because I mean, so many people vary, and I'm a night owl, so I'm getting up, around like today I got up at like 11, but the day before I got up at 7, so it really just depends on me. But I'm in bed, usually around like 2 or 3 every night. But what does your sleep schedule look like? Because it's fascinating how some people can live off of 6 hours, some people need their 8 hours, and then some people are freaks where there's like 4 hours and I can function perfectly.
I am a huge believer in getting adequate sleep. And I've just recently kind of become a believer. I've been an athlete my entire life, and I was kind of one of those athletes who just sleep. I don't need that. I was a Division 1A college athlete, and I'd go party the night before practice, getting 3 hours of sleep, get up for practice.
See,
I'm
for me,
thinking I'm good.
for me, if that happened, I'm one of those people where I'd rather just not get any sleep at all because if I get a little bit of sleep and then wake up, I'm actually crankier than if I didn't get any sleep at
Yeah,
all and then I showed up.
I
So
agree.
that's a hack for people out there. If you only have like 2 or 3 hours of sleep, just stay up those hours, deal with whatever you have to do, and then you can come home and nap.
Yeah, definitely. So I've pretty much went my whole athletic career just kind of dismissing that the body needs sleep. It wasn't until 2020, being unemployed and completely focused on my bodybuilding, that I learned the benefits of sleep because I was getting 10 to 12 hours of sleep a day. And I know it's amazing. I don't think I've ever had that much sleep at any point in my life.
I could move a mountain on 10 to 12 hours of sleep every day, basically. Oh,
Oh my gosh, I pretty much was. So last summer, I was still able to train. Um, I mean, my strength skyrocketed, and I was all natural during that off season. During this time where my strength just like went through the roof, going up in every body part. And my coach and I were just like, "What is going on here? Like, how?" We couldn't really figure out what was going on, and we really just came to the decision that I was getting 10 to 12 hours of sleep, and my body was in absolute love with it. And so I'm a huge believer in sleep. My situation has changed now that I'm employed. I have an hour drive to work. So yeah, I work from 6:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon. So I get up at 4:30 a.m., try to be on the road by 5:30, and I usually get home. I've been getting home earlier, like between 7 and 8 o'clock at night. So I try to be in bed by 9:30 to get, some good adequate sleep. But I know it's going to get tough when I start a prep because I have to do fasting cardio. And my hope is to get a stationary bike to put into my home so I could just crawl out of bed, get on my bike in my underwear, do my cardio, jump in the shower. No
well,
driving to
you
the
just gotta
gym.
tell your employees during your preps to be like, don't even look at me, don't even talk to me. Just
Oh yeah,
ignore that I'm a human being. Just pretend that I'm not here because yeah, I could not,
pretty much.
especially with that hour drive. It's like, oh my god. But yeah, that's
Yeah, it's
that that
rough.
that. Hey, it's great that you're able to deal with that. But if someone were to walk up to you too and say, Aaron, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it. What would be one thing that you would like to see changed?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I'm going to tell you the change. It's something that gets under my skin, but I recognize that I'm actually going to start having to do this to help my following if I want to get sponsors. So one thing that can aggravate me at times in the gym is seeing people more focused on filming themselves than training hard. When I go into the gym, uh, whether it's me on my own or I'm training with, especially when I'm training with my coach, we are completely focused. And a lot of people want to bring their tripods and they film themselves. And I get that a lot of people are trainers and they have a big following and they're trying to help people. But a lot of those people, I see their training suffering. As they're doing their workout, they're looking over at the camera to make sure they're in the frame. For me personally, I just feel like that would be so difficult for me to focus on my training. And but on the flip side, I would really like to get myself some sponsors at some point, and I don't have a big following on my Instagram, and I don't produce a lot of bodybuilding content, and I'm coming to the realization that I might have to join in with this. I don't know what I need to do. I don't see myself carrying a tripod around much. I might, if I'm training and maybe if I have somebody training with me that I can get them to take a quick video of me hitting a PR or something like that that I can upload. But I definitely would like to see, especially a lot of new people who are new to the sport, really focus on your training, lift heavy. You really got to put those muscles through some suffering to help them grow. uh, try to put the phone away a little bit. Don't worry too much about filming and other people seeing it. Like if you really want to improve yourself, I think the focus needs to be on the training. That's just my personal opinion, but I do recognize that a lot of people out there they run businesses on their Instagram and whatnot training and they're trying to produce training content. I feel like that's a little different, but if you're not really doing that and you're just trying to show off and or vanity, who knows, and you're just filming yourself for the heck of it, that irks me. I want to see people train hard. I go in the gym, I get inspired by seeing people training their asses off. Like it makes me want to train harder. I'll be like, oh, man, I want to train harder than them, you know. So that's what I would
Well, here's
change.
your solution. You make a butt only OnlyFans page, and then you literally just take pictures. That's what I mean. You'll make all the money that you want in the world. But no, that's funny because I even had one of my friends who she's a medical student, and she's like, Ryan, do you know people that like are into like that foot thing? Because I can literally just take photos of my foot and then like try to sell them and stuff like that. Because I'm poor as hell, and I was like, unfortunately, I don't know anything like that. But good luck on that. I'll support it. And just give you a thumbs up. But no, yeah. So it's yeah. I find that so fascinating. But I mean, on top of all this too, if we were to talk to you a year from now, and again, if we were to talk to you a year ago and you would have predicted, all the stuff that's happened this year, would have called you a liar. But in an ideal world, where would you like to be at next year if we were to talk to you a year from today in your bodybuilding, just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
Um, in bodybuilding, I would definitely like to see me a year from now. I would like to see me breaking into the top 5 on the pro stage. That would be really exciting. I'm hoping, I'd say my goal, my first couple of pro shows is top 10. I try to be humble and realistic. I know a lot of people are like, I want to win. Of course I want to win, but I don't want to disappoint myself too much. I try to be realistic with my expectations, but my goal is top 10 at this point. And a year from now, I would definitely like to try to break into a top 5 at a pro show.
Yeah, like I don't want to stand next to Big Ramy and just be like, I got a chance. Yeah, this is my moment right here. So yeah, but no, yeah, and yeah, just yeah, that's a great goal to have too because yeah, so many times I hear in this podcast like, oh, I want to win the Olympia, that's my goal, and I'm just like, Andrea Shaw, unless Andrea Shaw unfortunately has an accident or something like that, good luck with that, and or Iris Kyle, but no, so I love that, and I mean, lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Definitely Species Gym. That's where I train. Do the majority of my training. All my friends are there, and they're all super supportive every time I walk into the gym. Sometimes I'll have a bad day, and I walk in, and everybody's high fiving me and telling me have a good workout. It's a real great pick me up, and definitely to my coach Kyle Watson. He's the owner of Species Gym, and he's gotten me to where I am today.
That is so great. And again, everyone, if you're in the Houston area and you want to go to that gym, just go. I mean, I'll leave stuff down below where you can find it, and give Erin a follow on her Instagram page. I mean, I highly recommend it. And, buyer beware, you will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating those Twinkies and to get in shape. But again, Erin, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, again, you guys, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.